Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Career Growth Podcast, where we talk about everything you need to build your career. For many who are starting out, decision making might seem like a daunting task. I know it is for me. I get confused at the supermarket when there's more than one type of biscuit. So there we go. But if we hope to become leaders in the future, it's something we need to get comfortable with, isn't it? And luckily for us, technology is on our side. And this is why today we're diving into a few very important decision making and leadership insights, courtesy of Karen Kim, CEO of Human Managed. And Human Managed is a platform dedicated to facilitating and improving intelligent decision making. Thank you so much for joining us today, Karen. It is so lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here too.
And how are you doing today? Just a real quick check in.
I'm very good. We are the week's going well, wrapping up, and this is really the best way to wrap up my busy day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for making the time out of your busy day as well, because it
No
can't be
problem at
easy. Because I
all.
know the time zones and your evening, you'd rather be chilling, but you're here with me instead. So I appreciate that.
I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. So sweet. So let's talk a little bit about your early career journey, because it's obviously something that we really do like to explore. How did you start out, and what really led you here to this position today as CEO?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would describe my career path as non-linear,
Yeah.
definitely random, and mostly characterized by processes of elimination. So I studied Cambridge. I studied politics in Cambridge, and I graduated having absolutely no clue what I wanted to do. But I knew fairly clearly what I didn't want. Like I didn't want to work in banking. I didn't want to convert to law, as a lot of my friends at the time were. And after a few internship experiences, I didn't want to work in the public sector. So a lot of these elimination processes after I came back to Hong Kong after studying in Cambridge in the UK. And my first job was in recruitment. So I have a lot of love for the industry. I understand the work and the impact that it could have. I spent a year in recruitment and then ended up getting into a business management program in British Telecom. After that, I spent about 6 years in telco doing various different roles, but mainly in customer facing roles. And then I had a very short stint at LinkedIn, where again I was working with customers, and but all of that combined, they do have a trend in the sense that I was providing a wide range of solutions and services to solve different problems that organizations face. Whether it's hiring, digital transformation, cloud services, cybersecurity, you name it. These are all these challenges that enterprises face, and I did all of that. So I guess to answer your question, there wasn't really like a particular event or one moment of inspiration that brought me here. My path was never really planned. I'm not much of a planner, and but rather I think I built my path as I went, and I was always guided by my intuition and my curiosities. But I when the opportunity presented itself to become a CEO of Human Managed, a bit of background story. I worked with the founder of Human Managed back in British Telecom. So I was an account manager, and he was heading the cybersecurity division there, and we served the financial services sector with enterprise managed IT solutions. So the connection was made there, but
Right.
we developed our relationship through that, and I got
Right.
to know of his vision to start this data platform company, and I just left at the chance, right? Because for me, it was always about going towards ideas and people that I'm drawn to, and the opportunities to work on current and future problems that affects all of us universally. So yeah, I mean, if someone told me that I'll be here a couple of years back, I wouldn't have believed them, but here I am.
The way the water flows, isn't it? You just so it's so unpredictable, but at the same time, you were able to sort of make these the right decisions that led you here. It's really interesting. And how exactly, just out of curiosity, when the founder of Human Manage actually approached you about becoming the CEO, what was your thought? Because I know that you said that you left at the opportunity because why wouldn't you? It's
Yeah.
amazing. But what was your sort of perspective at that time? Did you have any concerns, any worries?
Oh, absolutely. My first reaction was that I thought it was a joke, because I had all these reasons why, playing in my head that why I shouldn't be the CEO. Like, for example, I've never led a team officially, or I've never, let alone start a company or build a company, build a product. I've never done anything like that before. So my first intuition was like, absolutely not. Like, I think you're making a terrible mistake. But you know, like all decisions that require time and thought put into place, I took that offer and then went back and really thought about it and spoke to a lot of people, including my now husband and back then my boyfriend. And he, like, we just kind of walked through the reasons, all the reasons why I shouldn't. So I was very good at answering the reasons why I shouldn't be doing that. But then after we took that, we then started talking about all the reasons why I should do that. And and then we just weighed those options. And at the end of the day, like, these opportunities, I knew that it wouldn't come that many times in my lifetime. And you also have to go with the trust that you have in yourself that you will grow into a certain role. And one of the things that the founder told me at the time was that you're not going to do it alone, right? Like, yes, you have the title of a CEO and you have the roles and responsibility of a CEO, but you're going to have a team. And we're also going to be learning as we go. And a lot of the things that we're doing as a startup, we're doing it for the first time. So you're not going to be alone in that. So that really helped. So yeah, like that's I guess that's a really interesting example of those pivotal decisions that you make, right? Like, once those kind of things, opportunities turn up to you, you notice it. You notice that, oh, this is not an everyday occasion. So
Yeah.
sometimes you do have to go back and just, like, what would you tell a friend, or what would you advise to someone that you really deeply cared about, right?
Yeah.
So you have to kind of go through all of these motions before you take that action. So it wasn't like I just jumped into it without thinking.
Absolutely. I mean, thinking these things through is definitely a piece of advice we would give anybody. Because one thing is, you did get this valuable golden opportunity, and you could have just been like, I'm in. No more questions. I'm in. You could have done that, but you did take your time to ponder on it. And I think a lot of people would also relate to, hey, am I good enough? Can I take on this role? Will I be able to do it? But it's
Yeah.
also important to talk to people that you trust around you, who are able to sort of fill in the gaps in that analysis that you may not be able to do in that state, when you're in that state of mind where you're focusing a bit too much on the negatives. So
Yes,
I'm really glad you
absolutely.
were able to do this
Yes,
with
me too.
absolutely. But another thing is that previously you mentioned that Human Manage aspires to help companies make the best possible decisions consistently in an information-rich world. That's a very interesting way to put it, honestly. I must say, kudos, honestly. So I just want to talk a little bit more about what you mean by this. How does Human Manage function as a platform?
How does human manage function as a platform?
Yes, I
Okay,
just want
so at the very core of our business,
to.
we are a platform business. We have built a cloud native platform that uses all the latest technologies that you can imagine. But what the function of the platform is, to simplify it, is that we simply take data in from any data source, and we collect it, we process it, we run our own analysis on it, and we produce what we call IDEA. IDEA stands for intelligence, decision, and action. It's a simple input process output process that we do, but of course, the reality is a lot more complex than that. But the core of it is that we take data as input, and we process it in a way that we can run multiple use cases. And the output is supposed to help enterprise businesses. We serve the essential services sector mainly. Financial services industry is one of our largest users of the platform. And the use cases are really we can really run any use case, but of course there are some standard and most used use cases, and they mostly go around cybersecurity posture, seeing anomalous behavior, or most recently our top use cases is fraud analytics. So again, it really depends on what kind of data you want to understand.
So I just want to talk a little bit more about in like the context of human managed. I want to understand how you would define intelligence beyond just data, because from the outside, it's a little bit, how do you say, a murky subject. It's a bit of a murky topic. How would
Yeah,
you define
absolutely.
intelligence beyond data?
Yes. So I'm not exaggerating when I say that my first year as CEO, I was mainly thinking about this, like thinking about the core concepts, including
Yeah.
intelligence. How does intelligence differ from, for example, knowledge or wisdom, right? And it really just diverging on these this wider and related ideas, and then finally converging on a definition that means something to us, and something that everyone in human managed can agree on and can be motivated by. So you hit the important element of what intelligence is, and that's data, right? Data and intelligence are highly integrated, but they're definitely not the same.
Yeah.
And we have to look at intelligence in the context of today's world. Like if you think about what is intelligence, like what comes to mind for you when I say,
For
oh,
me,
yeah, what's like an image or concept that sticks to mind?
well, quite frankly, when I think about intelligence, I'm seeing interconnected nodes of data. Because for me, it's that's how I view it.
Yeah,
Was that it?
amazing. No, not, I mean, there's no right answer, but I definitely can explain it in a way that
Yes.
we human manage understand it, and the way that
Yeah.
we apply it to our business. And
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the spot in the sense that it is about interconnected data. Let's look at the way, for example, like let's look at the way that humans learn and grow, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
AI, artificial intelligence, is mimicking the way that humans learn and grow. So let's say, I don't know, a lot of students listen to this podcast, right? Let's say you're writing a thesis on a topic that is your bachelor's degree or master's. I mean, first you decide on the topic or like the problem that you want to solve, and you have to get out there, right? You have to go and do your research. You sift through a huge amount of resource to gather the data, and data is that atomic unit of information. So that's like stage one. And then you got to process it to filter through what's relevant, what's useful. And you have to understand it in the context of the problem that you're trying to solve. Like just because you have a lot of data at hand doesn't mean that it's information that is useful, right? So after data, which is an atomic unit, you have to have a contextualized information. And then you still have to go through further processing. You organize the relevant, useful data. Maybe you create notes. You have your own system of revision. Maybe you want to talk your way through it, discuss it with people. This is when information gets turned into knowledge that you can easily store somewhere in your memory, and you can access it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just about consuming that information, but it's like you have to process it and know where to go find it.
Yeah.
Now, up until this point, I haven't even mentioned intelligence, right? You still have only stored knowledge so far. And when it becomes intelligence, at least in human managed world, is when this knowledge gets used or applied to serve a particular function, or when it solves a particular use case or problem, that's when it's intelligence. So to sum it up,
Exactly.
like data plus context plus application is intelligence. So it's applied knowledge, and this is why we always want to close the loop with, after you have the intel, what are you doing? How are you applying that? what decision did you make out of that intel, and what action that came out of that?
Oh, that's a really cool way to put it, actually. Because to be frank, I'm personally not involved in that side of matters at all in any of my roles. For me, it's always been a sort of like distant, how do you say, not a tangible concept. So I just want to know, how would you like, this is a good way to sort of anchor the concept of intelligence in people's minds. Exactly what goes on behind the scenes before, this becomes knowledge that you can actually apply. And that's the stage we
Yeah.
want to get to.
Exactly. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work with data every day in order to deal with this. It's a very human concept. It's about how we process whatever's around us, what's
Yeah.
in the environment, what's interesting to us. Everyone has their own processing method and system, and I'm sure,
Yes.
like in your day to day, like you do this without even knowing that you're doing it. And you also have every time that you're applying something that you've learned from the past, that's like intelligence that is evolving, right? Not when you say someone is intelligent, you don't necessarily. Well, I don't for sure. I don't just think that they're book smart. Yes,
Yeah.
you can exactly you know, right, the difference between book smart and street smart, and there's a lot of different ways of saying it, but
Absolutely.
intelligence, or like when someone is appearing to be intelligent, is when they can really pivot based on the context and know exactly what to say and when. So those kind of specific application, it applies to everyone. Like you say that, oh, I don't deal in this field. Actually, you do. Like you're doing that right now.
I am,
So
aren't I? Well, that's a bit of a long shot. Me?
no,
Stop.
definitely not.
Stop.
Everyone has their own domain. Everyone has their own domain of
Definitely.
of knowledge and how they're applying it
Absolutely.
to real world problems.
You really did, like, when you said that there's different types of intelligence. That's the thing. Because when we talk about intelligence, it is not a singular, easily definable subject or,
Exactly.
a word even, because you do have a type of intelligence that basically, like, how well coordinated are you? How good is your dexterity? That's a type of intelligence.
Yeah.
Athletes have way better coordination than I ever will. So, you know, yeah, don't.
Yeah. And when do you exactly,
Okay,
all
go.
these different techniques, all these different muscle memories and techniques, or like training that athletes do, those are all forms of intelligence that they're applying to, I don't know, win a race or get a medal or something.
Absolutely. Yes. The way that they're trained to sort of even like hand-eye coordination and utilizing that information, and you practice gathers data that you're not even aware your brain is processing, and in the end you could be like, okay, if you throw this javelin like this with this much force, so where would it land? I feel like that is a sort of an outcome that people who are, who have that kind of intelligence would be able to predict, even if I can't personally, which is fine.
Exactly.
Which is fine. I'm not throwing
It it,
javelins
it
anytime
comes
soon.
it comes from experience. It comes from that constant feedback loop. And now with AI, right, it fast tracks that, and then you can tune that model. But ultimately, you still need that real world application, and for you to even realize that's useful.
Absolutely. When we talk about real world application and of course AI, back in the day, the old school way, right? In order to be a leader, you had to have tons of experience. You need to be able to predict outcomes. You need to be able to analyze the data brought to your table, understand which is worthwhile, which is not, and be able to do that without the aid of, the technology we have today, which sounds personally to me, it sounds like a tragedy waiting to happen if I had to do it. But I wanted to speak a little bit more about your approach to leadership and decision making. Like you said, you got this opportunity kind of out of the blue. You had not managed a team officially before. So, what was your core approach? How did was there a real life decision that you could use as an example to highlight this?
Yeah. Before I even get into specifics, again, I want to set the context
Yes.
of the world today.
Yes.
So humans, as well as machines, we have to make decisions every day. right? And the world today is characterized by information overload, right? Your friends, your colleagues, you're constantly bombarded with things that demand your attention, right? There's data, there's alerts, there's notifications from so many different channels. So
Yes.
that's one thing. And then secondly, and this is more recent, but also very transformational in the way that we interact, is we have increasingly limited face-to-face interactions, right? Like human to human. The distributed work, remote work, that has is now become the new norm, and that's also impacting the way that people communicate, and the right information being served to the right person at the right time. Right. And thirdly, digital transformation. That used to be like something that maybe large incumbents or enterprises managed to do and they had a big budget for, but now everyone is doing it. It's the status quo. And the speed of change is now supercharged with AI. I'm going to cite one thing that I heard like on a podcast recently, but yeah, Google cites that AI capabilities is doubling every 6 months. And that's 3 times faster than Moore's law. So what used to be like a straight linear graph is now exponential, and there's no way. We don't really know. We don't really know where we're going to end up in a year's time or whatnot. So that's the context. Like the context is you decision making before AI and before all these cloud capabilities and apps came about. Yes, you're right. It used to be very different because information was limited. Like people didn't have so much access to data and information. People didn't have 100 apps running in the background. They also relied a lot on face-to-face interactions. So as a result, it's really easy to be overwhelmed and not knowing what to focus on and what to prioritize. So given that this is the world that we have and we really cannot change it, like I don't think we're like our
Nope.
job is not to change it. Like it's
Yeah.
definitely here, right? So what does effective decision making and leadership look like in this context? So there's a lot of different qualities of good decisions that we can talk about, but at HM Human Manage we focus on two things. One is speed.
Speed.
Time is the most valuable resource, and yeah, like we said, the world doesn't wait for you. New events will always occur, new problems will always pop up, digital transformation, etc., like everything that I've just mentioned. So speed to decision is extremely important for us. And secondly, the agility. What I mean by agility is the ability to test, and frequently assess where we end up after making a certain decision, and then do we have the ability to change and improve from that. So
Yeah.
yes, there are great decisions, fantastic, perfect decisions that you can make, but if it's
Yes.
made too slow, or if it's made and you cannot turn back or you cannot be agile, we don't really see that as the goal. We would rather make good enough decisions many more times than perfect and precise decision one or two times. So taking this into account, I generally divide my decisions into two buckets. One is fixed, and the other is fluid. So fixed is something, yeah, that is not easy to reverse. And these are usually like principles based, I would say. For example, what is our platform architecture? Or what's the core system that we're going to use? What kind of technology are we going to invest in this year? What is a strategic partnership? Hiring decisions. Those are decisions that we cannot just be like, oh, that was a mistake, let's turn around. Yes, we can, but it's going to be very costly.
Yeah.
Those decisions need deeper, longer, deliberate discussions and even like scenario planning. But actually, these are very few and far in between. I don't come across, I don't start my day having a lot of
Yeah.
decisions that are fixed. These decisions usually have already been made and the direction has been set. So the second bucket is fluid. These are the decisions that I usually spend most of my time making every day. And these are operational decisions. Like every day, you must have heard some of these, like what are the top 1 to 3 things that you have to get done.
Yeah.
But I don't actually plan out the details. because again, the world moves so fast and I cannot predict everything that's going to happen. So it gives me room to adapt. And, for example, like our priorities every week, it may change. When the team tells me, what should I prioritize on with all these 5 things that you said, one day I could say this, and then the other I could change my mind. And I remember in the early days, the
Yeah.
team had a problem with this. They had a problem with that. They were like, you keep changing your
Oh,
mind.
right.
But after we started having more and more iterations of these examples, they started understanding that this is not me changing my mind. This is me being fluid and being agile, because we're not changing the strategy. We're not changing the direction. I'm not changing the fixed decisions. So then it became a culture. We're definitely not perfect. And I don't even know what perfect looks like, to be honest, because we're 5 years old. We're still growing. We're still a very small team. But whenever there is that quick, fluid decision that's being made every day, they don't look at me going like, "Oh, why did you do that?" Like, so it's that we grow with more and more examples. And yeah, one thing I would like to add as well is you probably heard the term "fail fast," right? Like
Fail,
this is like
fail
a
fast, fail
fail fast.
forward.
Exactly. And this is like a very and I definitely agree. It's better to fail fast and like overthink and go slow and miss the opportunity or get things wrong. It's important, but failing fast alone is not enough. You have to course correct immediately after. So if I could visualize my ideal decision making progress as like a chart, it would be up and down, up being good decision and bad being not so good decision. But it's moving really fast. It's moving fast, and the downward lines are getting shorter and shorter each time because I'm learning from the mistakes, and we're just making the cost of making a mistake smaller and smaller each time. So that is a goal, and I can't really give you a particular example, but that's what my day to day looks like. Like it's just a lot of these smaller decisions that gets made, and when a big impact decision comes, then that's when I take a step back.
Right. Okay, but that is still a very good mindset to have, I think, because I feel like I have experienced what you just described. I just didn't
Okay.
know that this was, the amount of like weight to it. Because here's the thing, as even because I deal in content, and for us, it's always sort of like there's a lot of pre-planning that goes on, stuff that you can't really, responsibilities you can't share, things you can't ignore. But things are
Yeah.
always going to be unpredictable, and it's always those decisions that we need to act fast. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We need to find a way to
Exactly.
move on from it, but we also need to learn from it. Even this
Yep.
is an ongoing experience, as one of the new hosts of this podcast, we've had our own fair share of doing that. So it's kind of like, oh, hey, yeah, we are, these mistakes, as long as we take something away from it and actually improve as we go on, this is a
Exactly.
good thing.
Yeah.
Failing fast. Got it. I'm gonna make that
and
my
and you
buzzword.
always
I might be a
learn
few
you
years
always
late,
learn
but
from you always learn by doing it, right? Like you have
yes,
empirical
absolutely,
examples. You don't learn by just reading a textbook, or reading about how someone else did it. So
absolutely.
another thing that I always say to the team is like, don't get too attached to your decisions, or the work that you've already done. Like, don't try and protect the time that you've already spent on something that was not optimal. Let's
Yeah,
just move on, because there's just so many other decisions and problems that we have to face.
absolutely.
So yeah, just not getting too attached. And also, worst thing that you can do is like not doing anything, not making a decision.
Yes. This is a great mindset to have. And speaking of great mindsets to have, forgive the cliche, but as a woman in tech, you might have heard this. The woman in tech. Oh, what are you
Yeah.
doing to change the industry? What are you doing to change the norms? No, that's not what I was gonna ask. But just a disclaimer. But as a woman in tech, I'm pretty sure there are instances where you're expected to sort of face this and be like, "Hey, what are you doing? How have you positively impacted the sector? What changes have you made? But I kind of want to speak to you as a person, as a leader, and
Yeah.
see what have your decisions as both a woman and a leader, how have they impacted the industry norms? How have, what industry norms do you want to challenge, or what have you already challenged thus far?
Okay, that's a really good question. I definitely face prejudice and bias every day. Not in terms of people who are just facing me and talking to me and they're just being prejudiced and biased. I just mean systemically there is a bias. So when, for example, when people start to realize that I'm the CEO of this huge data platform company, I can definitely see the surprise first, and then they will meet me where I am, and they'll try and understand like my journey and how I got here, or maybe some of the problems that I'm trying to solve. So it's that first round of ingrained bias or prejudice that I believe I'm challenging just by being here. Like I'm literally not doing anything. I'm just saying, hey, I'm the CEO of Human Manage, and this is what we do. So that may not seem like a big thing, but it does mean that over time, I really believe that that could, with more examples like myself, if that would definitely make a change. And also questioning the linear path, for example, a tech CEO or a tech founder must have studied engineering or coding programming background. That's also not the case. I have none of that, and yet here I am, right? So it's all about there are many different modes of operations. That's what I want to show, and I believe that's what my experience speaks to. So it's not something that I am actively trying to change. It's just by existing and by persisting and by growing and sharing my story. Hopefully this is not an anomaly. Hopefully this is not something that people look at and be like, oh, that's new, right? So that's one thing, and I really feel privileged to be in a position to even do this, and yeah, hopefully maybe it can give some tech founders
Yeah.
maybe another thought of bringing another person with no obvious background or no obvious connection to look at something in a fresh way, and that it could work because yeah, like everyone, you just don't know where the world is gonna go, and I really believe the secret ingredient to any companies, big or small, is understanding that context. Like I said, the context of the problem, the context of the environment. What are the challenges that the market has? It's that like thinking beyond the tech that's going to be different, and that's what I believe that I bring to the table. So, I mean, there's just so many ways. I'm just one of many different examples, and also, I guess, in a wider sense, in the enterprise solutions industry, the kind of change that I also want to see is, and I really trust that is already happening, is that companies are exploring different ways of building new solutions for the problems that they have, rather than like trying to fit an existing product or something that they can find in the market to existing to the problems that they have. So the story of Human Managed, we're a bootstrapped company, right? We're 5 years
Yeah.
old, we're bootstrapped, and yet we're serving some of the region's largest companies in the essential sector. How does that work, right?
Right. Right.
And that works because a few of our customers have taken a chance on us, and they've seen the value that we bring. They really like the fresh perspective and the fresh way of doing things, and they give us a chance. And then they stick with us because we keep delivering value. So I do believe this will have a ripple effect, and we're
Yeah.
not, yeah, and that takes time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really well put, honestly. And it's kind of it is a little bit messed up that you simply existing, that's what's sending these waves across the industry. Because in an ideal world, you would be an accepted part of the industry just like that. It is a little bit messed up. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, I wish
it's not
people
that
would
I'm
didn't
not.
question it. Like
Yeah, it's not
you
that I'm
shouldn't have
not
to say it.
accepted.
Yeah.
Right, right. It's just that that cognitive that moment of, oh, I didn't expect that, or
Yeah.
that kind of thing,
You're all right.
where people have a pre-imagined concept of what a CEO should look like, or what a startup should
Absolutely.
look like. So it's not just I'm not saying that, oh, the industry doesn't accept me, or like people are really rude, or they no, it's not like that. it's
Yeah, of
it's
course
just
not.
that
Yeah.
it's that mental shift that I see is happening, and not just through me, but I also see other examples of other just not very predictable or expected kind of individuals or teams that are making a change.
That is wonderful, honestly. And I hope that the change continues to happen and grow, and that, the future is a lot more diverse, and we won't have preconceived notions about this anymore, because
Exactly.
it's already 2024, people. But yes, it's there's so many people at the forefront, so many women at the forefront of many great tech ventures already. So
Exactly.
the future's already here, people. The
It's
future's
looking
already here.
brighter.
It's already looking brighter. But also, another thing, I guess, when we're talking about the future looking brighter, it's a bit of a contentious issue, this one.
Yeah, yeah.
AI. It has a lot of people very excited about the future and has a lot of people very worried about the future. And it's people are kind of like, okay, how are we going to strike a balance? How are we going to use it as a tool to further human evolution instead of stifle, certain industries, certain skill sets, remove those people from the equation? There is this conversation going on. It's a very big debate on
Yeah,
right now. And how do you
absolutely.
think that, like human manage? How do you manage to strike that balance between cutting edge technology and the human touch?
Yeah. The this maybe is a good time for us to bring the reason why we're called human managed.
Yeah.
So the notion behind the thinking behind human managed is that in the world that is so technology driven and technology focused,
Yeah.
ultimately the decisions have to be taken by humans for us to progress. Right? It's still, at least right now, as of today, humans are in charge of where we take civilization and society forward. So yes, a lot of things are automated, a lot of things are run by AIs now, but at the end of the day, humans are the ones putting these solutions together. They're the ones deciding what technology fits where, what microservice interacts with another. These kind of system building and ecosystem creation is still done by humans. So I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
Yes, on a very grand scale of things, yes, it's definitely scary, and something that is so fast and we don't understand fully yet is definitely giving a lot of uncertainty and fear and doubt in the market. But
Yeah.
also, there is some comfort in knowing that also that's out of our control. Like individually, we cannot control that. It's just a world that we live in, and it's the context again. So,
Yes.
I don't think that technology and human touch is something that is separate, that needs to be balanced, or kind of like the work-life balance argument, right? Like
Yeah.
one doesn't exist with the other, because technology literally means the application of a domain-specific knowledge or scientific knowledge to solve a
Yeah.
problem, or like
Yeah.
something practical, right? And it's what's become blurry now, and what's causing some discomfort is that the roles of humans look a little different. Actually, it looks very different in this tech economy. But it's, if you think about it, like humans, we see less and less obvious cases of humans like controlling the machines, programming the machines. Machines are coming up with their own code, their own models, and they're way better than humans can do. But it's, we just have to evolve with that. We have to evolve with those advanced capabilities that tech can offer us. And
Yes.
the answer again I bring back is humans' role is building for the right context, so
Yes.
the right users, the right problems, the right situations, and improving it for sustainable usage. So there's a lot of hype, right? There's a lot of attention that is brought into amazing prototypes or amazing products that go viral, or
Yeah.
has like made it into a unicorn company. But we also have to think about our role in progressing human civilization. Like, how do you make a lasting
Absolutely.
impact? How do
Yeah.
you think beyond this version one, or how do you think beyond this initial use case that you've developed for? And trust me, machines are not thinking like that. They're not thinking, okay, after this program, after this model is run, how can I actually improve myself to apply my my outputs to a different context? Like they don't, machines don't do that. So I think, for humans, it's actually a great thing for us to go into this playground, discover where our passion or interest lies, because now you can literally learn from YouTube, like all these amazing content out there. You have all these different apps that are readily downloadable for free or really cheap. So that access to tech has gone is so much better, right? It's a social leveling field. So people can first like really iterate really fast on what's interesting to them, and then they have to go through what I just went through earlier, like data to info to knowledge to intel.
Yeah.
That's the role that humans play. So I think there's plenty of opportunities. It's not that you know technology is going to take over humans necessarily. I think once we start thinking that way, all creativity goes out the window. Once we start thinking like, oh, the machines have taken over, we have nothing else to add to this. Like,
Absolutely.
that's literally saying that we don't have any more problems. We don't have
Yeah.
any more problems in the world to solve.
Yeah. Until then, hopefully one day there will be no problems left to solve. But it's also about furthering human civilization, because the reason
Yes.
why we have civilization itself is because human curiosity overshadows everything else. Our thirst for
Yeah.
knowledge, to discover, to do. And this is where I think like creativity really comes into play, because creativity has enabled humanity to just get those answers. We had to get creative, so we came up with technology.
Exactly.
It was born of human creativity and curiosity. And also historically, like our curiosity was unmatched, because technology was just not up to the pace. But now it's slowly catching up, which is enabling us to kind of invest a little more in those areas to find the answers we're looking for. And
Yeah.
I think curiosity is also central to human manage your story. And I'm guessing a lot of people would be like, how do I foster this kind of mindset, that enables me to drive innovation, especially in this particular space? Like, let's talk
Yes.
about the intelligence space so that we could, just for some added
Absolutely.
context. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to kind of bring back the point that you mentioned about creativity, and how that is a very uniquely human thing. There's a lot of cases where I've heard in my career, like, oh, I'm not a creative person. I
Yeah.
don't create stuff. I'm not creative. But actually, that's not. It doesn't mean that you're. It doesn't have to be that you're a superstar on TikTok or something like that. Everyone has the ability to create and to share their creation outside of themselves. So the kind of mindset that I'm talking about is, don't just consume. There's so much content out there that is very easy to just be a consumer. And it's also very easy to say, oh, I'm not a creator, so I'm not very good at creating, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's that process. Again, the goal is not to create for the sake of it, but it's to go through that process of data to intelligence to decision to action, that gets into a habit of you then. Curiosity is literally like a fuel for you to try different things. So, you know as I said, that learning and that consumption is only going to be a knowledge inside of your head if you don't put it out there. It could literally be a note. You can journal it. You can do this podcast or talk to someone. But better yet, apply that knowledge or that intelligence to a particular problem. So maybe find different projects that you can work on, or a startup that's going to get you closer to the problem itself. And yeah, that's the scary part, getting that work outside of you. Those thoughts in your head, that becomes intelligence that maybe someone else can use, or even machines. It doesn't have to be human to human. It could be that intelligence code or programming thing that you've done that a machine can understand, but that's still outside of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, curiosity has to turn into action, and that action will turn into impact.
Wonderfully put. Very succinct. Which is actually really sound and actionable advice. But here's the thing. Now we're out of time. But that leaves me with one question. That leaves me with one question. What is the most unconventional piece of advice you'd like to share with our audience?
This was really hard, actually.
We like doing this. We like this. We enjoy this. The wackier, the better.
I don't have anything wacky, but again, kind of bringing it back to the theme. Sometimes thinking is overrated. Thinking is overrated. Just do and course correct. Do course correct. It doesn't matter if you don't like something that you did it. It's okay to just turn around. Use the access to information and data to your advantage. The ability to look outside of yourself, the system that you're in, the set of instructions that are given to you, you can definitely question it. And that's a very human thing. So not super wild, but yeah, I would say sometimes don't overthink. Just do it.
Thinking is overrated. You heard it here first, folks. Yeah. Thinking is overrated. Don't think. Brain empty, no thoughts.
Don't think, just do.
Just do.
No. Okay, just don't tell my team I said that.
This is going to be the sole promo for this entire episode. Just that bit where you say thinking.
That soundbite, right? Don't think.
That is it. But thank you so much
don't
for joining us.
Don't put it out of context. Don't put it out of context.
Okay. No promises. No promises. Okay.
But remember, I said it's all about the context.
It's all about the context.
Thank you so much.
We will keep that in mind. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was genuinely such a great conversation. And of course, please, to our listeners, to follow us. We are on Instagram, we're on TikTok. And of course, please listen to our podcast, drop us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out to us. We're always listening and we're always on the lookout, because that's what we want to do. We want to answer your burning questions. Thank you so much again, Karen.
Thank you.
I will see you again
Thank
later.
you, Carlos.
Yeah, see you.
Thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Goodbye.